you're right, it does, and it kind of alludes to that in the piece around the habits and the way things are building. And speaking of that word, I mean, you almost expect it. You see it on the eye test. You've been this season. Well, we're going to go 1-0 down quite quickly, probably from a set piece, so we'll start playing there. And you call out the numbers as well of how many times Liverpool concede first. That probably, is it similar for you? That's coming down to maybe a bit of a mentality, because it seems gone. I know this isn't statistical, but the old days of keep it tight, especially away from the first 20, give nothing. It does seem habitual to concede that goal.
I think this has been a thing. I think this was even a thing before Slot. I think this was a thing in Klopp's final season because last season under Slot, we gained the joint most points from losing positions. So we fell behind a fair amount last season. Yeah. And the difference is we managed to come from behind. Whereas this season, we haven't gained a single point from losing. We've lost every time we've gone behind. So I think this is a long-term thing where I think we are purposefully starting slow in games. I truly, truly believe that we feel our way into games, invite the press, as we spoke about earlier. We want teams to try and press us and then tire them out, basically, and then expose that later on in games. And how many times last season did we see Slot make a halftime change or just tweak something and it worked perfectly? Yeah. This season, the tweaks are not working. That's the different thing. What's happening? So for me, these slow starts, they've got to stop now because it's costing it. Last season, it wasn't costing us. Yeah. When was the last time? And against Everton, we went 1-0 up early. But how often do you see Liverpool go 1-0 up early in a game? We generally don't do it. Atletico, we did. That was Champions League. Premier League wise, I think the Everton, when we went 1-0 up, that was Liverpool's earliest goal at Anfield for over 2 years at the time. And that was it. It was only the 10th minute or something like that. Yeah. So and that people would look at that stat and go, the amount of times I'll put on Sky Sports and Gary Neville will be going, our teams have just got to survive this first 20 minutes at Anfield. That is so far from the truth. Liverpool do not come at you fast anymore. No. And they haven't for a while. And that's fine. That is absolutely fine if you are then dominating the game later on and winning the games. The issue is at the minute we're not, and we're doing this slow start, and it's now leading to conceding goals. 5 out of our 11 games this season, we've gone 1-0 down in the opening half an hour, and that's way too much. You can't win the league. You can't sustain that. It's as simple as that. So I think these slow starts, maybe you've got to be replaced by something a bit quicker. And you can't just click your fingers and flick a switch and change that. So that's where Slot's paid the big bucks, so he's got to work it out. I think that's a massive issue for us at the minute, is that we're purposely doing these slow starts and the habit is there now, and it's hard to get out of that.
Does it? I mean, yeah, the bad habits, the slow starts, and in a weird way, we're nearly 28 minutes into this, and I'm enjoying sort of breaking it down, but probably someone, and a few in the chat panel are talking about it, I understand this. There's been a huge focus for the stat side, and even just across the board, long passes. Because Arne Slot's mentioned it about 86,000 times in press conferences as well, and you mentioned this as well. I hate saying this, but almost it bears out with the facts you put in the article, Mike. There is almost a bit of a blueprint there to get in to Liverpool or beat them, isn't there? Go long quickly. You tend to get joy, as the stats show.
Yeah, well, last season, what I've done in the article is I've looked at the percentage of our passes faced that have been long in every season for the last 8 seasons. And we were a top-ranked team in 5 of the last 7 of those seasons for how many passes have been long against us. Last season, we were a 6th-ranked team. So that has gone from 12.1% was the amount of passes that were going against us long last season to 17.9%. So for Slot, it's a massive increase. And we won the league last season with those numbers. So it shows that teams were doing it against us last season and we were winning games as a result. This season, it's up to 17.9% of the passes we face is long. And it was close to 20% before the Man City game. Man City don't play long passing games. So it's closer to 20. We're talking 1 in 5 then before the Man City game were long passes. and it's working. Of the 5 games we've faced the most long passes in the league this season, we've conceded at least 2 goals every single time. So you're right, there's the blueprint. It is working. My issue with it is, as I've just referred to, 5 of the last 7 seasons we've been top for facing long passes. We are used to this. And how many times do we see Van Dijk and Joe Matip back in the day would win the header for these long passes? We are so used to facing these long passes. So you look, it's 17.9% is high, but it was at 17.5% the season we nearly won a quadruple. So, there's no difference on the numbers there. Teams were going long. What I've tried to explain in the article, I think it's down to the pressing. When we were pressing under Klopp, teams had to go long because it's the only way to escape the press. You're not going to short pass your way out of a Jurgen Klopp press with Salah, Firmino, Mane closing you down. You're not going to short pass your way out of it. So they went long, and then Van Dijk and Matip would win the header. Fabinho or Henderson would win the second ball, and there we go again. This season, we're not pressing. Teams have time on the ball. The issue we then have is that teams can pick out these long passes, and what we've done this strange thing where McAllister and Gravenberch have been asked to go further forward this season.
Yeah.
But it just means the midfield isn't then there. So when teams can basically, that's why so many of the passes we're facing along just bypass the midfield and go from defence to attack with one ball.
Right.
Van Dijk and Konate's aerial numbers are still great. They're still winning most of the headers. But the issue is the midfield then isn't there to pick up the second balls like it was in the past. And that's why it's working against us. So again, I think Slot's going to make a tweak there. Is I've got to up the press and say, we're going to hurry these long balls and make them so they're not being picked out to an attacker. They are just rushed boots forward. Yeah. Or Gravenberch and McAllister or Szoboszlai or Jones or whoever it is have to sit. And they have to sit. And so we have to go one of 2 ways. And again, as I said earlier, we're caught in the middle of both, where we're doing neither. We're not pressing, but we're not compact either. And that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, it does sound like we're getting, there's so much that can be tweaked. And I mean, we've talked there as well about, say, long balls, the press, how that could be refined. We've even seen, Szoboszlai come back into that kind of 10 and him moving up there to sort of try and combat that a little bit. And I know it's never this simple, but in terms of the underlying numbers and what you're seeing, and we've spelled out there across the board, can Slot make some of these tweaks, do you think, quickly? Is there a few things he should just be like, right, we need to sort that as we come back for this run-in straight away and we can get joy here?
100%. And the one thing I wouldn't do is now start with a high press. And I know I've just said our pressing numbers are down. The reason I wouldn't is we have brought these players in and we're training at a lower intensity. And I don't think we have the intensity to start pressing teams, and it might cause us injuries and make it worse in the future. We're about to lose Salah to the African Cup of Nations, so we're going to lose an attacker there. So I think that the tweak I would be making there is I think we've got to do the more compact, and I think we've got to say to the 2 sitting midfielders, Gravenberch and generally McAllister, might be Szoboszlai or Jones. They've just got to sit in front of the back 4, basically. That will do 2 things. It'll make us more compact. Teams can't just boot it long and win the second ball because we will have the bodies back there. The other thing it will do is give Florian Wirtz the entire attacking midfield on his own, because at the minute he doesn't have that. McAllister's joining him, Szoboszlai's joining him, somebody's there with him, but taking the space that I want him to be in personally. So I think it will do 2 things. It'll make us more compact defensively, make us less susceptible to these long balls, and it will then also give Florian Wirtz more space in the positions we want him to be in, which then we can build an attack from. So for me, that would be the instant tweak I would make. The other thing it would probably allow you to do if your 2 holding midfielders are sitting is allow your fullbacks to get forward more. Because Kirk, at the minute, we've all seen him being shackled. And I think we need to see play to his strengths and don't overcomplicate things. Look at the players we have and think, what are they good at? And just tell them to do that, And so for me, Kirkes and Bradley or Frimpong should be bombing forward. Salah should be then coming inside, with Frimpong or Bradley on the overlap. That allows Salah to get in the box more, which we're struggling to do. It allows Gakpo to come inside and have Kirkes on the overlap. All the while, you've got Van Dijk, Konate, Gravenberch, and McAllister sat together as a 4 at the back, and they're not coming forward. For me, I think that would be tactically the tweak I would make that would, I think, change a lot for Liverpool and improve a lot for us in terms of it would certainly stop us looking so porous at the back, first and foremost. And then, as I say, hopefully play to the strengths of some of our other attacking players. You know, if you've got your fullbacks bombing up and someone like Wirtz can play passes into them, I think that on paper to me that would work, and it's not a tweak that would take too much on the training ground to do either.
No, it really doesn't feel that way at all. And like you say, because the amount of times we've seen Kirkes almost, I'm not saying he's misprofiled, but sat on Van Dijk's hip or looking to pass, and you're thinking this is not the player that we signed from Bournemouth, and it's not how many thought he would be used at the same time. It does seem that would suit so many. And the final bit on this, I think this was almost a killer sort of line or last paragraph from it. So just reading that, people. But November, December is a chance now for Slot to right some wrongs. He proved what a good manager he was last season, but now he has to do it again under different circumstances. Liverpool's season rests on this month and a half. And when you look at, and we've mentioned some of the teams there, Mike, to be honest, you've got to be honest, this run up until sort of New Year is teams right at the bottom. So teams you know are probably going to be going long against us a lot of the time, aren't you? He's got to start getting this right, or the pressure's just going to crank up, isn't it?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. These teams it's all well and good saying we've got 5 of the bottom 6 still to play. We haven't played these teams. There's only Burnley down there that we have played. But those teams are going to do what Brentford did, what Palace did, what Man United did. They're going to go long against us. And if we don't prove that we can handle it, you know, we've got Forest at the weekend, who under Sean Dyche, since he's come into the Forest setup, they've played the second most long passes in the league.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a surprise to us what they are going to try and do on Saturday. If it wasn't at Anfield, I'd be incredibly concerned about that game. But generally, our Anfield form's been good. And the other than the Man United game, which sort of shows to you that's a blueprint for Forest there, you know. And what happened in the Man United game, we conceded early and we conceded from a set piece. And, you know, Forest are more than capable of doing that to us as well. They did it to us last season. We didn't beat them home or away. Okay, there's a new manager now. Okay, they're lower down the league now than they were last season, but they will do what we have struggled with all season. So it's all well and good saying, our next games are against Forest, they're against West Ham, they're against Leeds and Sunderland. Sunderland have started well. These teams are going to do what Crystal Palace, Brentford and Man United beat us by doing. So this is now on Slot. If he doesn't prove that we can now deal with that style of play or come up with a plan to nullify it or just basically deal with it, it will cost us certainly any hope of a title, but you don't want to be coming towards Christmas and not in the top 4 and thinking, is it going to cost us a Champions League place? So that's where I'm saying the season rests on this time now. If he doesn't prove now that he can cope with that style of football, then it is going to be a fight on for the Champions League for the second half of the season rather than a fight for the top 2 or 3 places in the Premier League, which is where we want to be.
Yeah, which is exactly, you think of the opposition, there's a good comment there in the chat panel. I'm not looking forward to playing against Ballard because Sunderland are in that mix, and those teams as well, aren't they? So we're going to throw it long. We know Forest have got a few behemoths, haven't they, like Milinkovic and players like that at the back. Yeah. So they've got to get it right. I mean, the only other one, and I know I probably didn't mention this, and it's not to get into transfer talk, but Antoine Semenyo was being linked a lot. And a lot of people saying this, Mike, it's interesting because a lot of people like this will solve a lot of the woes, but Antoine Semenyo can't play at centre-back. Antoine Semenyo can't sort of play in a double pivot in the midfield. When you're looking at that from a stats point of view, how do you look at that as a signing and targeting that area, shall we say, a winger coming in?
Well, there's a few things I should comment on that. I mean, firstly, he's going to the African Cup of Nations, isn't he? He's with Ghana.
I don't know if Ghana, I don't think they were.
Have they not qualified? Right, that saves us there. But I think the one thing that he does that maybe our attack doesn't do at the minute is he can press. Bournemouth's pressing numbers are phenomenal. So what he does bring is that work rate that maybe our attack. Ekatike is a very hard worker, and Verts does covers a lot of ground as well. But I think Semenyo, if you were to add him, he does more pressing than maybe a Gakpo or Salah would. So pressing is where I would look and think that's where he does improve us. But as you say, to me, that doesn't solve the problems of the midfield being vacant and pushing up higher. It doesn't solve the problem of the fullbacks being unable to get forward.
Yeah.
So I think he's a fantastic player, and the price at 65 million to me seems a very good deal for him at 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
And he's homegrown as well, which is also something we lack, and I think that's worth mentioning. But I think the work rate is where he ticks the boxes for me. And he would provide a level of energy to our attack that maybe we do lack at the minute, certainly while Isak's not been fully fit. So I can see both sides of it, but yeah, I totally agree with your point. He doesn't solve the problems we've spoken about in this podcast in any way, shape or form. He doesn't solve the midfield or the defensive issues.
Which is something that Arne Slot, Aaron Briggs and Liverpool need to solve very, very quickly. As was said, there is a pivotal period coming up, whether it's set pieces, long balls. Liverpool have got to sort things quickly. All it leaves me to say is, for answering every question, for going in depth, for explaining it to the layman as well, Mike, it is massively appreciated for that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was an AI special for Anfield Index.